Inside Story Uganda.
Chotera was not in Rakai when the elections were being conducted. He thought they would be conducted fairly. He was in Kampala and he was told they had cheated. I don't know, there's a relative or a friend.
He's a sister.
And he said, he said, I am going there. I said, thank God. Even Kayanja, you who was following no process when you are arresting people and some being shot and others, because by the time Kayanja left Operation Wembley, it had started even debt collecting. I was in Luzira with people who had been unfair arrested by Operation Wembley. So over debts, that if you want your debt to be corrected, you hire Wembley. So they will come and arrest you as if you were a terrorist, and then you end up in Luzira. So it's not that it is better, and I want to come to the question you asked me directly, and I don't want to use NRM to shield our own failures.
Can NRM learn anything from you?
We have our NRM may learn or may not learn. I know in FDC we had elections before the NRM interfered with the FDC. We had credible elections. They become bad when we started insulting, but they remained the elections. There was no position that was ring-fenced. We went for each other in those elections. Some would win and then we collectively would go back to build the party, because it was meant to be a forum for democratic change until they brought their bad manners there. So the parties should be running from a party that is in power, because that party has authority even over us. That's why recently they say now opposition parties should not get money. So they set the standards by being in power, but they also run the institutions of the state, because as I said earlier, the Electoral Commission is superintending on parties. It has a duty to make sure the parties are democratic internally. But we have also used the advantage of the decay in NRM to cover up our own failures, in all the opposition parties. I want to see mine. We are lucky we are just 1 month old, so we are just a party under construction. But after the interim period, I will be fighting with all my energy to make sure that PFF is democratic. Like I was fighting within FDs for FDs to be democratic. Because you have no excuse. You can't use the NRM. You don't use tell us when in FDC you cannot give what you don't have. If you are democratic, you cannot give Uganda democracy. And that's why NRM cannot. So the parties have a duty, those of us who want to get into power, to play by the rules, to be an example. But if we fail,
what is fishy about your processes in other parties?
You're asking what is fishy. Are there processes? That's a question you should ask before you go to whether they are fishy or not. I was in Tanzania. I'd gone to visit Chadema. In Tanzania, you are given a percentage of the affirmative action seats. The percentage that you get as a presidential candidate is the percentage of the women's seat that you will get. But women found it comfortable to go and contest under Chadema, an opposition party, than in the ruling party. Why? In Chadema they set standards. They said if you are a professor, you have 3 points. If you have been in the party for 20 years, you have another 3 points. If you have, so by the time you go to contest in the elections, your fate is almost known. They said in the ruling party of CCM, they were choosing their mistresses and girlfriends and children and so on and so forth. So even opposition parties,
being accused of that.
They say because you see Chadema, Chadema is not shielding itself. It's not covering its own weaknesses. It's actually doing it better than CCM. So we should be acting and behaving better than NRM, maybe to give Ugandan hope that when we get into power we'll do better. I am not saying, so most of us are not doing better.
Okay, let's put parties on the pedestal. We've discussed the NRM specifically.
Yes.
Now, if we went into another specific, and that is the National Unity Platform, what do you make of their process of selecting, of finding?
I think National Unity Platform is now a big party. In my view, I think they should hold the party primaries. But they said in their constitution, they use vetting.
Yeah, but they say they are being encumbered by the state.
I haven't read. I don't accept that the state will stop you from holding. We have had the first time I came to Parliament, I faced a party primary, very serious one. The things that Ofono Opondo has said here happened to me, because the person who was contesting against me had the money. So he would go and hide delegates, because we are about 350 who are supposed to participate in the party primary in Chadondo East. You look for them, you can't find them. They tell you they slept in a certain hotel, they are drinking, eating, for you don't have money. But I was only lucky that in the areas, especially in the areas of Nangabo, where Mzee Njuba was, we had attracted very serious people. You find families there, people you cannot go to booze and give money. So there are problems that you can't run away from a process, that because you think government will interfere in the process.
You have just told us here, our viewers, that it is us NRM who brought our bad manners in FDC leading to PPF now. The other day we had here, PFF. The other day we had here another person, I think it was the treasurer of NUP, who made the statement and said they can't hold open primary elections because they fear NRM will infiltrate them.
No,
now NRM is here for quite some time. For how long are you going to dodge holding
I have said,
elections?
When you brought your bad manners, some of us left. And I am saying in the party where I have gone, there will be democracy. Because everybody aspires for that.
But you might also go there. So, so where will you move?
No, it's going to be very difficult. Because if you have robbers, you now put a fence. So we have put a fence. So
will you keep moving?
So you're saying NUP cannot raise
it was easier,
state interference.
It was easier to infiltrate and interfere in the FDC. We have made it very difficult. You will find it very difficult to interfere with PFF. But the point for me, Simon, is that maybe selfishly, human beings cannot do self-regulation. The moment you leave it to parties to do self-regulation, write their constitution, abandon them, then we will stop building political parties as a national project. Part of the reason we pay, we fund activities of political parties, that these are public institutions, we are building them for Uganda. So someone must be able to enforce the standards. Say that a party doesn't say, for us, we are fearing NRM, therefore there will be no democracy. Say that the NRM doesn't misbehave and we just look on and say these are internal matters. So because selfishly, if I am in charge of a party and I don't want anyone to contest against me, I will behave like M7. I will say you must have been in the bush, your son must be an army commander. So you can put conditions that only protects you. So all parties, we must have national standards and make sure that every party plays by those standards.
Thank you. When you peep into the National Unity Platform, are their processes any better? Does NRM have anything to learn from how NUP gives out its flag bearers, rather its flags?
Well, for me, normally I refrain from commenting on an internal process of a political party where I do not subscribe. That's good for them. For us, NRM, as a mass party, the path we took of universal adult suffrage was perfect. We have also had complaints of members of our members who are being edged out in constituencies or in places where we are not popular. Like in Uganda, particularly I heard from somebody from Bwikwe was saying NUP supporters are registering in NRM and they go to vote for weaker candidates. Weaker candidates at all levels. At all levels. You find literally when it is NUP competing against itself. And when they retract internally, they sort out themselves, and you find when they have taken the show. When it comes to that, then we will have to think twice. But as far as I'm concerned, NRM we were taking a good path. Where we are having it wrong is where we now allow these greedy persons at local level to mismanage the entire system, where we allow the RDCs, the DPCs to run the show, and they go scot-free. They will even write reports.
You seem to be expecting angels to run your show.
No, I would not expect. That's why I told you, I expect at least 50% fairness. But if it goes to less than 50% fairness, I can't play in that game.
Well, we'll take a very short break, and when we return, we'll be looking at the outcome of the tribunal. To some with the credentials of democracy, in and out. Honorable Sarah Opendi, the cost, the tension, the violence, the short-changing and everything about a party flag, is it worth it?
Well, of course, when you bring those issues, it's not worth it. But I think the weakness is in the law. We have the Political Parties and Organizations Act with a clear code of conduct which parties are supposed to abide by. But unfortunately, who is there actually to enforce that and ensure that that happens? If you talk about violence, it's clearly stated in the Political Parties and Organizations Act that every party must have clear guidelines of its own laws to govern, you know, these processes, for example, of getting the flag. But we have seen intimidation, we have seen bribery, we have seen, you know, all these irregularities that you're talking about. So for me, I think it's not worthy. And that's why some people stayed away, including ministers. We have ministers that did not participate in these party primaries. They have opted to sit back and wait for the general elections. But some of us still had hope that we may not experience these, you know, challenges, and therefore we move on. And they are in certain regions where if you don't get the party flag, then your fate is sealed. You can't go to parliament as independent. So these regions, it is like a do or die. Of course, in my case, I've said before, I contested as independent, and I won. So it's my people.
How costly was it for you to run as an independent, having been denied a flag?
Of course, you are running against a party which had resources, because the NRM has resources. It brings resources to the village party committees, to the sub-county party committees. The president comes to campaign for the flag bearer. The president came to my district twice. And I would just sit there and see him campaigning, and I wish him a safe journey back. But of course, of course I would go to receive him. But of course I would tell him, okay, we would joke, and I say, Your Excellency, safe journey, but I'm going to defeat your candidate. So for me, I think I must thank my people, because I did not have the kind of resources, but I had my team. And even within the NRM party, people who knew that I had been unfairly cheated. So it's expensive. It's not worth it going through what the Honorable Tinkasumire and others have gone through. It's not worth it. But I think for me, I think the weakness is in the law. And it's very unfortunate that we are going into elections without electoral reforms, because we must improve on our systems whenever we are going into elections. Because every time you have elections, for example, now we've had party primaries. We know the challenges we have faced. Before you get into the next primaries, you must review and propose changes to better the system. That has not happened. We are even having SEC, which is going to tear the party even further. We have not discussed some of our, you know, the party constitution. Some of us had amendments. I have amendments that I wanted to propose. But at what stage? Where do I propose them? So I think it is high time that we looked at the Political Parties and Organizations Act, reviewed it, looked at the gaps, and even found an independent team, an independent institution, away from the Electoral Commission, to actually oversee the political parties and how, you know, they go about their business. It's important. For me, it would be an issue.
in the aftermath, in the immediate aftermath of the NRM party primaries, of course, the president came out with condemnation and promising to take action. But do you see the president either using kid gloves in handling this
No, in the party
menace?
In the party primaries, is not a president, is the party chairman.
Yes, he came out as chairman.
Let me say, first of all, violence and the use of the army has been more dominant in Western region, I guess, because historically they have had a little bit of a relative dominance in the army. You remember the elections of 1994 CA? That Ntungamo was a no-go area. Ruhama was a no-go area on account of Brigadier Gamuyisemu, Fred, and Augustine Rosana. It was a no-go area there. Isinjiro was a no-go area. Ibanda was a no-go area. Ntungamo Kajara, where the brother of Major General Mugisha Muntu was tussling it out with a minister, Kweronda Ruhemba, was a no-go area. Elections were postponed like 3 times by basically Stephen Nakabwai. I don't want to repeat, I don't want to, but the people who have relatives and friends in the army have tended to exploit that. I think we need the institution, the administration of the army, even this recent one. You saw a major, a lieutenant colonel, who went to interfere in the elections in Ibanda. Our side, the use of the army is sprinkled, is minimal. There's violence, yes, but violence where candidates and their supporters organize vigilantes, civilian vigilantes. I did not witness the case he's referring to, where now the Minister of Defense used the army chopper to go there, and as part, of course, when you do so, you are showing that I am the one in power. But I did not see because I have been out.
That is also prohibited conduct.
Yeah, but
you are not supposed to use government resources.
Unfortunately, when you made the law, you prohibited using public resources for the main election. That's the law.
No, look at the political parties and organizations.
I can proceed. And so
accessed government graders. 8 of them put his posters and they started making roads.
So anyway, that's one case on violence and misconduct using state institutions. I would not blame entirely the electoral law. NRM petition, which I participated in writing, has a provision, I don't know which schedule is, on code of conduct. It actually provides for sanctions on a member, a leader, a candidate, a voter.
Including
yes. We have never, as a party since 2005 elections, we have never applied that code of conduct. And consequently, many mischief makers have gotten away with it.
Is it by oversight or?
No. I think the president, having come from the Bush days, I will keep referring because he has spoken about it himself. He says he bends backwards. He allows people to get out of their mistakes. Those who get out of the mistake will continue until somebody does it many times, and then he gives up on you. In 2006, 2005, after we had the primaries, ministers lost. I think at that time, 16 ministers lost. Under the chairmanship of the then Minister of State for Higher Education, Simon Mayende, they formed a group. We had a meeting at Plot 10. They accosted the president. They insisted. That's where the president made that famous statement. In the father's house, there are many rooms, which many people took literally. And the consequence of that rhymes with what Sarah is saying. Now, there are people who come into NRM primaries, elections, even not yes, not seeking to, not coming for a win,
but to ransom the president,
to ransom the system. You have seen each time we have gone through election, the failures are either ambassadors, if they have been MPs, you have seen them, RDCs, presidential advisors. I think that bending backwards, flexibility of the president, which was really initially was for good intention, has been hijacked and is being abused. Now we moved away from other stuff, from electoral college, only for members of parliament for women and the electoral college. But we have kept for the others. Let me tell you what is happening.
To you?
Yes.
To your race?
The special interest groups, except the women, are elected through electoral college. On average, like mine, is about 400, 420 electors. All of them district leaders. In my case, 43 districts. So, you go to a place and the person you are competing with, like in my case, tells people how he's going to hide them 6 days before. How he's going to give them 1 million. And these things are captured in the media, but the party doesn't take interest. That goes on for I had initially thought it was youths, but I'm now discovering that even the older people, a candidate who has disappeared for the last 5 years now turns up and says, I'm going to. So, hiding, you remember what caused actually that change? One MP in Butareja took voters across to Kenya. Now, hiding a voter or a voter choosing not to come in time is not a criminal offense. But for the party, we should find a way of sanctioning. You candidate, when you know we are going to number in the morning, and you're going to take delegates who are supposed to be available for others to talk to, you keep them, you give them whatever you give them, and you bring them in the nick of the hour to vote. You should be disqualified.
But this happened even for district chairpersons.
This is provided for in our rules.
The other things that they are doing, particularly in electoral colleges,
yes,
they collect their national IDs.
Yes, and
they pay half the pay, and after the election, you pick your national ID with the other half pay.
With the balance.
Yes.
With the balance.
With the balance. So now
that's what happened in Kagadi. That is the type of the election officials.
So NRM has allowed indiscipline to thrive.
We have allowed indiscipline to thrive. And I've said on this show before, I wrote it last week, I said, we need to get few people high profile, and we make them example by instant dismissal and disqualification. You are a minister, you are seen a disputing man at the vicinity of a polling station, or even campaign rally. You should be disqualified. If you want, go and run in NUP, go and run in FDC, go and run in PFF, whatever you want. But we should disqualify you from being a candidate, and subsequently dismiss you from the party. I think if we get 2, 3, 4 cases, ministers, a sitting MP who has been there for 3 times and has done that, I think it will send a very strong signal. Like in this one, where I am now, and for me, although I'm campaigning in the East, I am telling my colleagues in the other regions and said, if your rival tries to do those things, keep on the watch. This election, we want the elders really to show a different example. And we hope we shall succeed.
I think you're expecting too much.
No.
Ask the Tinkasumire what they have gone through.
Honorable what I have seen in the NRM, now the principle leading is that whoever violates the rules more is the one who wins. No, but you who will obey the rules,
you become the villain.
Yes, that's what happens. For me, I thought the RDC, the DPCs, we are going to be neutral umpires, the returning officers. We are going to be the returning officer. I was shocked.
Honorable
I was shocked. where
throughout.
RDC and DPC are leading army men and policemen to beat people.
Honorable Semuju, you were having a big laugh while these three NRMs were narrating the experiences. Is it any better in the opposition?
The chairman climbed the wall.
Is it any better?
Why did he climb the wall? NRM had it.
It was a NRM.
You see, I only want to invite NRM people that unless we focus on the country as a project, you will have to pay a price one way or the other. When we had an election in Kawembe, you saw what happened. The RDC is corrected from all over. In one of the WhatsApp group where Ufonopona and I are, we're even asking ourselves, does the law allow RDCs to participate in elections?
No.
One of our colleagues had said yes, and here so Moses Wiranga said no. But they were in Kawembe. If you came to my area...
No, it happens in every by-election.
Yes.
Actually, they are collected from all over.
And some RDCs in my area are like NRM chairpersons. Can you imagine when we were opening an office of PFF, the RDC called the DPC, so the DPC came and he sent the OC of my area to ask me, why didn't you tell us when you're opening an office? I said, tell him to go to hell, that I should go to the RDC, to the DPC to ask permission to open an office for a political party in a campaign season. When collectively you are benefiting from the deployment of the state against us, you risk that when you are crying...
We are the ones complaining and raising it. We are not waiting for you to raise it.
You should be complaining when the state is deployed against unfair against any person.
Yeah, that's
if it is deployed against you and you complain, the rest of us will be celebrating.
Are you celebrating?
That's why I told you.
No,
Tinka is my friend. I didn't want it to be mistreated. But just because it's
primaries, as he alleged, a man cannot tolerate conflicts in his house or political party, and he will keep hopping from one to the other. NRM primaries, with all the challenges, is still better and credible political and democratic path worth emulating than any other party in Uganda, where they do voting by 2 or 3 people. PFF, where it is all about self-selection like an ATM. Political conflicts and disputes build parties and players. Why talk about both every time he finds an opportunity? Over to you, sir.
So do you want me to respond?
You message taken?
The clips of that chopper in his constituency, I will share those clips with him.
Maybe it
in
was
the
a
parliament.
military operation.
By the way, he raised it in parliament, and he said since he's a minister for defense, he has access to all these equipment. That was his answer, arrogantly, in parliament. But I don't live in his constituency.
You're being used as a mercenary.
The clips, I did not record them. I wish I had known. I should have brought them here for the public to see. I am only interested in the people abusing. The last time I spoke about him, if he wants me to go back, was because as a minister for defense, he's a supervisor of Muhoozi Kainerugaba, but he had invited him as a guest of honor. And I said that was irregular, that you can invite people you are supervising and then they are praising you as a good worker. I know it is very painful, and I sympathize with him that to go and work in that sector today is the most difficult job.
I want us to move on. Honorable Tinka, no, Honorable Saropendi, the tribunal has concluded its investigations and some people are already getting their verdict. Do you think there was anything worth writing home about this tribunal in just a matter of weeks? And don't you find it magical that going by the magnitude of complaints, they've been able to conclude in record time?
Well, I think for me it was a good thing to put the tribunal in place, because either way, either before the tribunal or in an election, there must be a victor. There must be a winner. So people put up their case. I am very sure that the tribunal was not composed of one person. You would find some had, I think there were 3 in each. So I think they had the cases, and they have released their findings and recommendations based on what evidence was submitted before them. So it is better than having left the people who organized this election to be the one to hear their own case. It would have been worse, because look at my case. I defeated my opponents with over 60,000 votes. The one who came next to me had 21,000. I had 79,000. But I was taken before the tribunal. Now just imagine.
What was your experience in there?
No, for me the experience was, yeah, I could see the tribunal engaging the petitioners, whether they think that by listening or attending to these few DRA forms that they brought, whether they would actually overturn my victory. That was good, and of course they were putting it to them, because the substantiality test is what they were looking at. You know, you can't come up with just a story and talk about maybe these DRA forms were not signed. Those are omissions that occur even in general elections, because you are not contesting. In my case, they were not contesting the results. They were not those 1,000 that he was talking about. You find a DRA form with 73 votes, which I got, or 151, which I got. Maybe they had 0, they had 2.
Or maybe they counted yours the Tinkasumire way.
No. We didn't have that. So they were not contesting the results. They were only saying this DRA form was not signed by a registrar.
That's an anomaly, isn't it?
Well,
you find it negligible because it favored you.
No, not necessarily, because you see, we are 12. So for a registrar to sit and begin writing 12 DRA forms is a bit of a challenge. So some of them initially write the names as they wait for the people to gather, and then after writing the names, when you have, for example, an agent, then they simply write the results. But those were few.
You tell us.
Those were few.
They had enough time.
So
they had, the election was between 10
yes.
to 2. From 2 to 4, the time we closed the polling station. What were these election officials doing? They could not write names in the 12 declaration forms?
No,
I
am talking about,
your case.
I have 1,000, my case. I have 1,386 villages. And these people brought less than, I think there were about, maybe look at about 60 DRA forms that were not signed. So even if you took off those 60 DRA forms, does it affect my victory?
Yeah, but
it doesn't.
Overall, do you think the tribunal,
yes.
3 people,
so
can
overall,
be scientific to dig out everything, every mess?
Yeah, of course the time was short. And for me, it depends on case by case. Because some people simply wanted to petition, as the Honorable Fono Pondo said. They want to simply petition so that they can negotiate. Like, look at my case. What was the point? I didn't see. But there are also those who simply did that for personal reasons, maybe simply to have an audience with the winner, to negotiate, something like that. Or others even just petitioned for the sake of petitioning. It's also there. I had somebody who said, me, I know I'm not going to get it. I just petitioned just for just. So you can imagine somebody saying that. As we were seated there, I just petitioned just for just.
Does
so
it
that my
baffle you
opponent,
that the Tinkasumires and several others shunned this tribunal?
well, their case was a little complicated. Theirs, I think, it would require the tribunal to get to the ground, maybe even interview people and that kind of thing. That's a different it's a complicated case. And if what I read is to go by, because there are certain cases they said they would resolve, then if what I read in the media is correct, that there are certain cases that they would have to refer to SEC to make a decision. I don't know if that is true, but they are complicated. There are cases which are complicated, but there are those cases which can be resolved. For example, on the substantiality test. So the tribunal was not a waste of time. The tribunal for me was a good step, and I want to thank the chairman of the party for putting the tribunal in place.
There's been an argument that this tribunal is rather cosmetic and it's more to do with window dressing and offering comic relief.
No, but we have our own judicial system of justice. Don't people go there and after the outcome they say they are not satisfied, even after a year of hearing a case? So I think,
and the Court of Appeal is composed of 3 judges. Sometimes
but the question should be, once you have a process that is likely to generate conflicts, do you have remedy to let people who are aggrieved appeal? I think for me that's the main principle of the tribunal, of the reconciliation committees.
But it seemed to have been set up arbitrarily.
No, arbitrarily. Was it supposed to be appointed by you? That's provided for in our rules and regulations in the Constitution. There's a schedule how you resolve conflicts in the party, whether administrative or election related. The fact that 346 people went there in under 5 days, because the rule is you must petition within 5 days after receiving the results. The fact that 346 people went there to complain, don't mind whether the complaints were frivolous, no substance, just vengeance, for me, that's a good thing. The beauty now is they are beginning to release their findings and verdicts. There are cases where they have retaliated and maintained the win. There are cases that they have overturned on account that you have found fiddling. There are cases where they have said, don't go for re-election, go and negotiate politically, since you are from the same family. There are cases where I want to believe where they are going to overturn and say it is inconclusive, go and organize another election. I would imagine so. So for me, that is the beauty of it, that you leave people, you offer where, even if Honorable Tinkasumire said steaming, even that steaming is good. Last week I wrote an article and I said part of the role of the tribunal should be for the loser's bargain. So that somebody doesn't say, I have lost completely, I wanted to be an MP. Or I didn't go there to be an MP. When we were running in the NRM, in the premise of NRM, in the structure of NRM, there are people who came to my village and said, now that man has been just talking for Museveni, he must be having money. I will pick a nomination form for the post of who has picked.
That you can
so that he stands with you until the last hour. Now,
to name a price.
Yeah, he sends people to you. And how much is he looking for? 25,000, 20,000, 50,000. And they did that to me up to the district level. At every stage, he now withdraws. He says, now you are very good, I don't want to spoil your chance, now we should go and oppose. So he withdraws. Things like those. So this tribunal also is a loser's bargain. You give somebody an escape route. Somebody wanted to be an MP or wanted just to be known. There are people who think that Honorable Saropendi will see the president and says, I want my person who had competed against me to be assistant RDC. By the way, when Toro meeting the elders, there's a lady from Kudusad who said, can you imagine, Sarah has been defeating me, but she has never recommended me even to be a deputy RDC. Now, this tribunal is also a loser's bargain, and that's part of the political process. To me, it is a good thing. Now, you are talking about other parties. In the NRM, when we were writing the Constitution, I remember I had a big argument with the President and Honorable the late Professor Sibambi. For me, I had taken the other old system of saying, let us have vetting at every stage. Even for you to apply to be a member, because I'd been in Tanzania, I said, let us have, you just don't wake up and say you are an NRM member. I said, can't we have a year where villagers, members monitor you? The president dismissed. He said, we are forming a mass party. Whoever says is NRM during the day and says is PFF in the night, don't bother about him. We should concentrate on what they say during the day in public. Today you have had argument. People are saying, how can you allow Honorable Thomas Tayebwa, who was the youth chairman of FDC, when he joins NRM and becomes now a speaker? Some people, they are finding a problem there. You have had them arguing, how can you allow Anita Mong, who came from FDC yesterday, to be a speaker and she's now running? But we took the line as NRM that we're a mass party. As long as somebody says, I am NRM during the day, it will be difficult for them in the day to tell other people that they are not NRM. And you have seen, look at Honorable Agrawori. Once he changed, even his UPC, the Busia there, they could not vote for him because they said, you have said you are NRM. Look at Honorable Omar Atubo. The moment he accepted to serve in our cabinet as lands minister, look at the trouble my brother Mao is going through. People now say, but you can't say you are the Minister of Justice in NRM and at the same time you are saying you are a DP. He has not recanted his DPship, but he's finding, and for us it serves us as NRM, that we take all, because this NRM is a C. Even if you come as Mao DP, one person in that cabinet, how much are you going to change?
Thank you. Honorable Semuju, and I must tell the viewers,